Mantras of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says one must rely on the divine and yet do some enabling sadhana. The divine gives the fruit not by the measure of the sadhana but by the measure of the soul's sincerity and its aspiration. With always our love and blessings, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 1, The Book of Beginnings, Canto 3, The Yoga of the Soul's Release, page 28. At last, the traveler in the paths of time arrives on the frontiers of eternity. In the transient symbol of humanity draped, he feels his substance of undying self and loses his kinship to mortality. A beam of the eternal smites his heart. His thought stretches into infinitude. All in him turns to spirit vastnesses. His soul breaks out to join the oversoul. His life is oceaned by that super life. He has drunk from the breast of the mother of the worlds. A topless supernature fills his frame. She adopts his spirit's everlasting ground as the security of her changing world, and shapes the figure of her unborn minds. Immortality she conceives herself in him. In the creature, the unveiled creatrix works. Her face is seen through his face, her eyes through his eyes. Her being is his through a vast identity. Then is revealed in man the overt divine, a static oneness and dynamic power descend in him. The integral Godhead seals. His soul and body take that splendid stamp. A long dim preparation is man's life, a circle of toil and hope and war and peace, tracked out by life on matter's obscure ground. In his climb to a peak no feet have ever trod, he seeks through a penumbra shot with flame, a veiled reality half known, ever missed, a search for something or someone never found, cult of an ideal never made real here, an endless spirit of ascent and fall, until at last is reached the giant point through which his glory shines, for whom we are made, and we break into the infinity of God.
नान्यः पन्था विद्यते अयनाय ॐ प्रजापतिश्चरति गर्भे अन्तर्जायमानो बहुधा विजायते ॐ तस्य योनिं परिपश्यन्ति धीरास्तस्मिन्ः तस्थूर्भुवनानि विश्वा तस्थूर्भुवनानि विश्वा
या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिवीरदेवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु मीरा भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा।
ॐ सर्वगणे सर्ववरदे सर्वदुष्टभयङ्करी सर्वदुःखहरे देवी महामीरा नमोऽस्तु ते।
सिद्धिबुद्धिप्रदे देवी मुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदायिनी मन्त्रमूर्ते सदा देवी महामीरा नमोऽस्तु ते।
आद्यन्तरहिते देवी आद्यशक्ते महेश्वरी योगदे योगसम्भुते महामीरा नमोऽस्तु ते महामीरा नमोऽस्तु ते।
Darshan Day Messages, 21st Feb 1965. Above all the complications of the so-called human wisdom stands the luminous simplicity of the Divine's grace, ready to act if we allow it to do so.
Om Namo
Words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, taken from the compilations of our works of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, book Lights on Yoga, continuation of the topic, the goal, page 5. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, it is a mistake to dwell too much on the lower nature and its obstacles, which is the negative side of the sadhana. They have to be seen and purified, but preoccupation with them as the one important thing is not helpful. The positive side of experience of the descent is the more important thing. If one waits for the lower nature to be purified entirely and for all time before calling down the positive experience, one might have to wait forever. It is true that the more the lower nature is purified, the easier is the descent of the higher nature. But it is also and more true that the more the higher nature descends, the more the lower is purified. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, neither the complete purification nor the permanent and perfect manifestation can come all at once. It is a matter of time and patient progress. The two, purification and manifestation, go on progressing side by side and become more and more strong to play into each other's hands. That is the usual course of the sadhana. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, intensities like that do not remain so long as the consciousness is not transformed. There has to be a period of assimilation. When the being is unconscious, the assimilation goes on behind the wheel or below the surface, and meanwhile the surface consciousness sees only dullness and loss of what it had got. But when one is conscious, then one can see the assimilation going on and one sees that nothing is lost. It is a quiet setting in of what has come down. The vastness, the overwhelming calm and silence in which you feel merged is what is called the Atman or the silent Brahman. It is the whole aim of many yogas to get this realization of Atman or silent Brahman and live in it. Let me repeat. The vastness, the overwhelming calm and silence in which you feel merged is what is called the Atman or the silent Brahman. It is the whole aim of many yogas to get this realization of Atman or silent Brahman and live in it. In our integral yoga, it is only the first stage of realization of the divine and of that growing of the being into the higher or divine consciousness which we call transformation. The true being, says our Lord, may be realized in one or both of the two aspects, the self or Atman and the soul or Antaratman, the psychic being, Chaitya Purusha. The difference is that one is felt as universal, the other as individual supporting the mind, life and body. When first one realizes the Atman, one feels it separate from all things, existing in itself and detached, and it is to this realization that the image of the dry coconut fruit may apply. When one realizes the psychic being, it is not like that, for this brings the sense of union with the divine and dependence upon it, and soul consecration to the divine alone, and the power to change the nature and discover the true mental, the true vital, the true physical being in oneself. Both realizations are necessary for this yoga. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the I or the little ego is constituted by nature and is at once a mental, vital and physical formation meant to aid in centralizing and individualizing the outer consciousness and action. When the true being is discovered, the utility of the ego is over, and this formation has to disappear. The true being is felt in its place. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the three gunas become purified and refined and changed into their divine equivalents. Sattva becomes Jyoti, the authentic spiritual light. Rajas become tapas, the tranquility, intense divine force. Tamas becomes sama, the divine, quiet, rest, peace. There are three powers of the cosmos to which all things are subject: creation, preservation, and destruction. Whatever is created lasts for a time, then begins to crumble down. The taking away of the force of destruction implies a creation that will not be destroyed but lasts and develop always. In the ignorance, destruction is necessary for progress. In the knowledge, the truth, creation, the law is that of a constant unfolding without any pralaya, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Next topic, planes and paths of the being. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, men do not know themselves and have not learned to distinguish the different parts of their being, for these are usually lumped together by them as mind, because it is through a mentalized perception and understanding that they know or feel them. Therefore, they do not understand their own states and actions, or if at all, then only on the surface. It is a part of the foundation of integral yoga to become conscious of the great complexity of our nature, see the different forces that move it, and get over it a control of directing knowledge. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, we are composed of many parts, each of which contributes something to the total movement of our consciousness, our thought, will, sensation, feeling, action. But we do not see the origination of the course of these impulsions. We are aware only of their confused and pell-mell results on the surface, upon which we can at best impose nothing better than a precarious shifting order. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the remedy can come only from the parts of the being that are already turned towards the light. To call in the light of the divine consciousness from above, to bring the psychic being to the front and kindle a flame of aspiration which will awaken spiritually the outer mind and set on fire the vital being, is the way out. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, yoga means union with the divine. Yoga means union with the divine. A union either transcendental, that is above the universe, or cosmic, universal, or individual, or as in our integral yoga, all the three. Or it means getting into a consciousness in which one is no longer limited by the small ego, personal mind, vital and body, but is in union with the Supreme Self or the universal cosmic consciousness, or with some deeper consciousness within which one is aware of one's own soul, one's own inner being, and of the real truth of existence. In the yogic consciousness, one is not only aware of things but of forces. Not only of forces but of the conscious being behind the forces. One is aware of all this not only in oneself but in the universe. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says there is a force which accompanies the growth of the new consciousness and at once grows with it and helps to come about and to perfect itself. This force is the Yoga Shakti. It is here coiled up and asleep in all the centers of our inner being, our own inner being, chakras, and is at the base which is called the Tantras, the Kundalini Shakti. But it is also above us, above our head, as the divine force, not there coiled up, involved, asleep, but awake, scient, potent, extended and wide. It is there waiting for manifestation, and to this force we have to open ourselves to the power of the Divine Mother. In the mind, it manifests itself as a divine mind force or a universal mind force, and it can do everything that the personal mind cannot do. It is then the yogic mind force. When it manifests and acts in the vital or physical in the same way, it is there apparent as a yogic life force or a yogic body force. It can awake in all these forms, bursting outwards and upwards, extending itself into wideness from below, or it can descend and become there a definite power for things. It can pour downwards into the body, working, establishing its reign, extending into wideness from above, link the lowest in us with the highest from above us, release the individual into a cosmic universality or into absoluteness and transcendence. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, in the process of our integral yoga, the centers have each a fixed psychological use and general functions which base all their special powers and functioning. The Mooladhara governs the physical down to the subconscious. The abdominal center, Swadhisthana, governs the lower vital. The navel center, Nabhi Padma or Manipura, governs the larger vital. The heart center, Hrit Padma or Anahata, governs the emotional being. The throat center, Vishuddha, governs the expressive and externalizing mind. The center between the eyebrows, Agnya Chakra, governs the dynamic mind, will, vision, mental formation. The 1,000-petal lotus, Sahasradala, above, commands the higher thinking mind, houses the light, the still higher illumined mind, and at the highest opens to the intuition through which, or else by an overflooding directness, the overmind can have with the rest communication or an immediate contact. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, in our integral yoga, we mean by the subconscious that quiet submerged part of our being in which there is no awaking consciousness and coherent thought, will or feeling or organized reaction, but which yet receives obscurely the impressions of all things and stores them up in itself, and from it too all sorts of stimuli or persistent habitual moments, crudely repeated or disguised in strange forms, can surge up into dream or into waking nature. For if these impressions rise up mostly in the dream in an incoherent, disorganized manner, they can also and do rise up into our waking consciousness as a mechanical repetition of old thoughts, old mental, vital, physical habits, or an obscure stimulus to sensations, actions, emotions which do not originate in or from our conscious thought and will, and even often opposed to its perceptions, choice, or dictates. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, in the subconscious, there is an obscure mind full of obstinate samskaras, impressions, associations, notions, reactions formed by our past. An obscure vital full of the seeds of desires, sensations, reactions, a most obscure material which governs much that has to do with the conditions of the body. It is largely responsible for our illness. Chronic repeated illness are indeed mainly due to the subconscious and its obstinate memory and habit of repetition of whatever has impressed itself upon the body consciousness. But this subconscious must be clearly distinguished from the subliminal parts of our being, such as the inner or subtle physical consciousness, the inner vital, mental, for these are not at all obscure or incoherent or ill-organized, but only veiled from our surface consciousness. Our surface constantly receives something, inner touches, communications, or influences from these sources, but does not know for the most part, whence they came. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says there is a vital plane, self-existent, above the material universe which we see, a mental, vital, material. These three together, mental, vital, physical, are called the triple universe of the lower hemisphere. They have been established in the earth consciousness by evolution, but they exist in themselves before evolution, above the earth consciousness and material plane to which this earth belongs. There is behind all the vital nature in man his true vital being, concealed and immobile, quite different from the surface vital nature. The surface vital is narrow, ignorant, limited, full of obscure desires, passions, cravings, revolts, pleasures, pains, joys, griefs, exaltations, and depressions. The true vital being, on the contrary, is wide, calm, strong, without limitations, firm and immobile, capable of all power, all knowledge, all ananda. It is moreover without ego, for it knows itself to be a projection and instrument of the divine. It is the divine warrior, pure and perfect. It is an instrumental force for all divine realizations. It is the true vital being that has become awake and come in front within you. In the same way, there is too a true mental being and a true physical. When these are manifest, then you are awake of a double existence in you. That behind is always calm and strong, that on the surface alone is troubled and obscure. But if the true being behind remains stable and you live in it, then the trouble and obscurity remains only on the surface. In this condition, the exterior parts can be dealt with more potently and they are also made free and perfect. To be continued.
Leaving the past far behind us, let us run towards the luminous future. Lord, the year is dying, and our attitude bows down to Thee. Lord, the year is reborn, our prayer rises up to Thee. Let it be for us also the dawn